Okay, so let's dive into one of the most detailed and, frankly, epic end times narratives in the world. And this isn't just a story about destruction. Nope, it's a prophecy that's absolutely packed with heroes, a master villain, and a series of ultimate tests for all of humanity. Let's break down how this incredible story is said to unfold.
So here's our roadmap for how this all goes down. We're going to start with the small, subtle signs that the end is getting close. Then we'll meet the leader who's destined to bring everyone together. After that, we're going to confront the great deceiver, witness the incredible return of a prophet, and finally, face a threat so big it's almost unimaginable.
All right, first up, the signs of the end. Now, according to the source material, the apocalypse isn't like a switch that just gets flipped one day. It's described more like a TV series, you know? It's got different seasons that build on each other, and the drama just keeps escalating over time.
And you can really see the progression here. The pilot season has all these minor signs, things you might not even notice, like the spread of super tall buildings or just general moral decay. Then season 1 kicks it up a notch with more significant stuff, like the prophesied drying up of the Euphrates River. But really, all of this is just the warm-up for the main event, the arrival of the story's key players.
You know, before the final boss shows up, he's got his opening acts. The source talks about 30 lesser deceivers, these Dajjal openers, who are going to pop up first. And their whole job is just to muddy the waters, to make truth look false and falsehood look true. They create a world that's so confused and divided that it's perfectly primed for the biggest deception of all.
So, right as the chaos from all these deceivers hits its absolute peak, the narrative's first real hero steps onto the stage, the Mahdi. He's prophesied to show up at the exact moment the world is at its most fractured. He's the unifier for an age of total disunity.
And you can see his impact right here. I mean, it's night and day. Before the Mahdi, the world is just defined by chaos. But after he arrives and sets up his leadership in the region of Siam, what we'd call the Levant, he's said to bring back true knowledge, establish justice, and unite all the believers who are torn apart by all that confusion.
Okay, so the world is unified. Now, the ultimate test arrives. And this is where we meet the Dajjal, the great deceiver, the main antagonist of this entire epic. But his real power isn't just some magic trick, it's his perfect timing. He shows up to exploit a world that's already on its knees.
So how does he pull it off? Well, the stage is set by a massive 3-year global famine. People are desperate, they're starving. And then suddenly the Dajjal appears, and it looks like he can just conjure food and water out of thin air. He offers people survival, but there's a catch. They have to worship him as a god. His heaven is getting to eat, and his hell is starvation. The source basically frames this as the ultimate test. Can you think straight when you're starving to death?
But here's the real paradox of the whole thing. The Dajjal isn't some charming, handsome figure. He's described as grotesque, with obvious flaws. One of his eyes is blind, the other one is deformed and bulging. And get this, the word kafir, which means disbeliever, is literally written on his forehead for everyone to see. And yet, because people are so desperate, they follow him anyway.
And that's really what makes him so dangerous. See, the Dajjal's power isn't just his own. It's his mastery of lying combined with the absolute perfect context, a world in total crisis. That perfect storm is what makes him the greatest trial humanity will ever have to face.
But just when the Dajjal's power seems unstoppable, the story hits its climax. A pivotal figure makes a truly dramatic return to confront him head-on. Nabi Isa, the prophet Jesus. The prophecies describe this incredibly cinematic entrance. Isa will descend from the sky in Damascus, with his hands resting on the wings of 2 angels. And it's really important to get his role here. He's not coming to start a new religion. He's there to complete a very specific mission: defeat the Dajjal.
Now, to explain Isa's power, the source material uses a fantastic pop culture analogy: Conqueror's hockey from the anime One Piece. Basically, Isa's spiritual presence is so powerful it's like a force of will. He doesn't even need to fight in the usual way. His very being just overpowers evil.
And this power has an absolutely stunning effect. The moment the Dajjal, this supposedly unbeatable figure, sees Isa, he literally starts to dissolve, like salt in water. He tries to run, but Isa pursues him and finishes the job with a spear at a place called the Gate of Ludd, ending his reign of terror for good.
You'd think the story ends there, right? The bad guy's defeated, credits roll. Nope, the defeat of the Dajjal isn't the end. Instead, it acts like a trigger, unleashing an even older, more primal threat that's been sealed away for centuries: Yajuj and Majuj.
So, Who are Ya'juj and Ma'juj? You might know them as Gog and Magog. According to the lore, they are this massive, incredibly destructive branch of humanity, descended from the prophet Noah. They were so chaotic that a great king named Zul-Qarnayn trapped them behind a massive barrier ages and ages ago.
To really understand the scale of this new threat, just look at this number. The source says that for every 1,000 human beings who have ever lived, 999 of them will be from Ya'juj and Ma'juj. This is not an army we're talking about. It's a force of nature. It's an overwhelming tide of humanity.
When their barrier finally breaks, they will just swarm across the earth. And the prophecy is so specific. Their first wave will be so massive, they will drink the entire Sea of Galilee completely dry. By the time their second wave gets there, they'll complain that there used to be a lake there. Their path is just total, all-consuming destruction.
After they're convinced they've killed every last human on Earth, their arrogance takes them to their final act. They start firing arrows into the sky, declaring war on heaven itself. And in a final test of their hubris, God returns their arrows stained with blood, letting them believe, for just a moment, that they've actually won.
So how in the world is this unstoppable force finally defeated? Well, it's not with a battle. The remaining believers, led by Isa, take shelter on a mountain, and they just pray. And the source says God answers their prayer by sending a plague of worms that infects the necks of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, killing the entire horde, all at once overnight. They're defeated not by an army, but by a divine, unseen force.
So after walking through this whole incredible epic of chaos, deception, and faith, we're left with this question. The narrative frames all of these events as the ultimate tests of belief in the face of absolute desperation. So what does a story about thinking while hungry, seeing through obvious lies, and holding on to faith against an overwhelming tide, what does that really tell us about resilience in our own time?